heart as a metaphor runs like a thread through all the major religious and mystical traditions. Within Christianity, it's the mystical heart. Within the esoteric aspects of Islam, in the Sufi tradition, it's the winged heart, the two wings of grace and self-effort. And within Hinduism, bhakti, the heart of yoga. Devotion, direct connection with the divine. Go back into ancient Egypt, and the heart represented the character of our being. And at death, the heart was put on the scales of truth and justice, and it was weighed and measured against Mat, the feather of truth. So in all traditions throughout history, when we speak about the core, the essence, metaphors of the heart arise. Now, I want to work with a typology which is so simple and so obvious, the distinction between the head and the heart. Now, we all know this distinction. We know when someone's speaking out of the top of their head. We also know when someone's speaking out of their heart. And the heart, the head, is the rational mind. It's thinking. It's dividing, analysing, separating, judging, critiquing. Wonderful abilities, wonderful gifts. It's a wonderful instrument. The heart is about connecting. The heart is intuitive. It is embracing. It is holistic. It is empathetic. The head clarifies the vision, the heart connects. Now, Einstein, looking at these distinctions, he called the head the rational mind, and he described it as a faithful servant. And the heart, he called an intuitive metaphoric mind a sacred gift. The faithful servant, the sacred gift. The tragedy is we've created a world where we honour and worship the servant, and we've forgotten and lost connection with the sacred gift. So in our conversation today, it's about reawakening, reclaiming the sacred gift, the heart of the matter. Now, to find this heart, if you look within, that's to miss it. The heart is not here. The heart is located everywhere in the field of awareness. And looking within, that's the head approach. Linear thinking. Head, subject, heart, object, looking in a linear way. Looking that way is to miss it. It eludes you. The heart is amongst us, within us, around us. The heart is everywhere. The heart could be described as the field of attention, the field of awareness. Now, this field of awareness is a wonderful interweaving, a network of sense perceptions, memories, imaginations and projections. Now we perceive through the five senses. Our seeing, our hearing, our feeling, touching, our smelling, our tasting. Now, those five senses are one perception, multi-sensory perception, indivisible. Like right now, you're seeing and you're hearing the motorbike and the speaking. It's indivisible, it's one perceiving. Now, in this field of awareness, something triggers and stimulates memories. It could be any one of the senses. For example, if I ask you right now to remember a favourite song, and if you replayed it in your head, you'd not only remember the song and the words, but you'd also reactivate a particular moment in time, place, to a particular feeling, a particular experience, even who was there. It's a multi-sensory package. Because that's how this instrument works. it stores to disk multisensory packets of experience. And any one of the senses can trigger a reawaken a memory. You know, I'm sure you've had that experience. You're wandering somewhere and you smell a smell. You haven't smelled for a long time, and suddenly a flood of memories come back spontaneously. Perhaps walking in the fields in the summer, the smell of new cut hay, and then a childhood memory of the farm. It springs up automatically. So this field of awareness is this extraordinary mixture of perceptions and memories spontaneously kicking up. And not just memories, imaginations. That rope looks like a snake. A whole raft of emotions and feelings just pop up. Or if you're walking at night in a dark alley, and those shadows start to look like all sorts of creatures and strange things, and fears and anxieties and all sorts of things just spontaneously arise. So this field of awareness is this extraordinary mixed place of past, present, imagination. It's an interweaving. And not only memories and imaginations, also projections. We're all wounded. We're all broken in some way. We all have childhood pains. For example, perhaps you've got an authority issue. It's way back there. It was to do with some terrible headmaster or some horrific mother or father, whatever it was. So this is an old wound. So in the field of awareness, just the smallest correction or critical feedback and a reaction out of proportion to the moment springs up as that old hurt just spontaneously pops into the surface. So this field of awareness that we are is this extraordinary network and intermingling. Now, quantum physics offers an interesting insight as a way of seeing this. And one of the key metaphors in quantum physics is the word emergence. Now, this is impossible to draw and describe, yet I've got here a number of circles. Now these, we'll call them agents. These circles could be anything. These could be neurons within a brain, or they could be thoughts within a mind, or they could be, each one could be a person. This could be a group in a meeting, or it could be a weather system, air temperature, wind speed, cloud cover, etc. Or it could be an ecology, animals and plants interacting. Whatever it is, interaction is spontaneous and ever-changing. And these agents interact by either connecting or ignoring. So these interactions happen, whether it's a group of people or thoughts in a mind or neurons firing in a brain, they interact spontaneously. Regularities appear. These regularities give feedback which changes the way the interactions happen. And the changes are changed by the changes. Patterns appear. And of course the patterns feedback, and off it goes. This ever-changing, ever-fresh, ever-new. Nothing is ever repeated. There's only an eternal, fresh awakening. Whether we're talking about people moving, planets moving, blood moving around, cells in the bloodstream, it's all emerging, it's all spontaneously forming and reforming, and ever learning, ever changing, ever fresh. Now, we're talking about the subject and the object in this field of attention. Now, anyone who's done any investigation around non-duality or Advaita, and has actually done their own homework, will know that there is no separate independent me. You cannot find a reference point, a centre, a self, an author. If you do the investigation, look within, there is no me. There is no independent self. There is just the field of awareness, and thoughts, including the me thought, appear and disappear. Okay, people get that. Get this one. There's no world either. There's no separate objective world. There is no me and there's no separate world. They are codependent co-creation. Me and the world. Subjects create objects. Objects create subjects. It's fascinating. Because each one of us here lives in our own world. And it's a different world. And there is no objectivity. When you're not here, this world doesn't happen. There is no world existing outside of your awareness. And you cannot verify that. You can have a story about there being other places and other times, but they're just stories. There's only here. This field of awareness, without subject, without object. An extraordinary soup, a network. Now, quantum physicist David Bohm called it unbroken wholeness. Beautiful image. Unbroken wholeness. This multi-sensory, interconnected, ever-present now. Unbroken, unchanging, just this. Now, when we look through the head, of course we see the separations, we see the distinctions and the divisions, yet they're only conceptual. When we look through the eyes of the heart, we see the field, interconnected, unbroken, just this. And reclaiming the sacred gift, reclaiming the heart, is the key here. Looking through the heart, looking without labeling, looking without naming, looking without judging. Because this head, this rational mind is a faithful servant. But if we overemphasize it and start to worship it, and it inflates, and we miss what's always here, the heart of the matter. Now, reclaiming the heart. Some hints from the heart. Soften. One word is all that's necessary. Soften. When you're looking at this multi-sensory field of experiencing, and suddenly you become aware of memories coming up and imposing themselves, or judgmental thoughts, or imaginations or neurotic projections from the past. As soon as you notice them, soften. There you go. That's okay. It's just thoughts arising. It's just memories playing out. Just soften. Without judging, without reacting, simply just notice them and let them be, soften. And the heart of compassion, just see them for what they are. Memories, old perceptions spontaneously kicking up. Or suspend. Because sometimes there's an unintended consequence when we attempt to stop or suppress or deny the thoughts kicking up or the memories running or the projections. Attempting to stop them or change them actually gives them life. Because such is the power of this extraordinary intelligence that we are. When that luminescent intelligence focuses on things, it can strengthen them. So another hint is to suspend. Such a soft word. When you notice yourself getting caught up in a story, a running story, simply suspend and just gently lift it out of awareness. And let the flow happen. When you notice, suspend. So let's experiment with this right now. Firstly, with closed eyes. I invite you just to close your eyes for a moment and just be with whatever's happening in here. Soften. Any thoughts that arise? There you are. That's okay. Any stuff that comes up, just suspend. Without attempting to change or modify anything, just be with whatever's arising. And now, with eyes open, continue. See without fixating. See without naming or labelling. Just see the field of awareness. And if the judging mind appears up and starts to name or thoughts appear, soften them and just see the wholeness that is. The multi-sensory unicity that we are. And another hint from the heart, be kind. Be generous, loving, be kind. Now, back to this image of emergence. The agents interacting, the most important thing is the connectivity between them. So in human terms, that's opening up the connection between the people that arise.
So what's the definition of an agent?
It's just a word, it's a neutral word, so an agent can be anything. So in this instance, I'm saying the agent, let's say it's people. So in human terms, connectivity is through conversations. So change your conversation. Open up. Change the way you connect with people. Because whatever's arising in your field is you. It's not random. Everyone is living in their own world. It's not accidental. So the ones that are appearing, they're the ones that are appearing. Be kind. Connect. And most especially, be kind to the ones that you would react to. The parts of us, or the characters that appear in our field, we go, oh, don't like that person, or don't like that. Have a look. Be present to without judging. Wonderful wisdom within the fairy stories. The princess and the frog. The princess sees this frog as cold, as wet, as slimy, and she loves it just as it is. And in the loving and the being with it, it turns into a handsome prince. So be kind. Be kind especially to the ones that you don't feel like being kind to. Now, in the New Testament, John expresses it so exquisitely. God is love. And anyone who lives in love lives in God. And God lives in them. Or Silla Rameshwar. He was the guru of Nisargadatta. Now Nisargadatta spent very little time with his guru because he died not long after he met him. Yet after a number of years, Nisargadatta and a number of the key disciples got together and they collected the teachings of the master. And they compiled a book, I think it was, they first published in around 60-61, Master Key to Self-Liberation. Still available. Beautiful book. And this expression, after knowing the self intellectually, the best way of studying it and realizing it fully is to make everyone happy. Everyone is the self. The self is delighted when you make it happy. And Bankei, the 17th century Zen master, his version was self-centeredness and the unborn Buddha mind. And according to Bankei, everything comes out of the unborn Buddha mind. And because this unborn Buddha mind is marvellously illuminating, the traces of everything you've ever done are spontaneously reflected. Such an expression. This unborn water mind, it illuminates, it's like a mirror. And everything you've ever said or done is spontaneously reflected in it as traces. And these traces, thoughts appear and disappear, that's no problem. They're all coming out of the unborn. It's when we fixate, when we attach to these traces that are reflected, that we become deluded. So the wisdom of the heart, soften, be gentle, be kind, suspend, and just be with this ever-present flow, this unicity that you are.
I feel as though I've just come across the field in the last few months. And it's pretty amazing that you've added a bit of depth to it this afternoon.
You hear the birds right now? Yeah, they're just happening. They're part of the field. And the intelligence that you are is recognise them. We don't have to make any special effort to go, oh, there are birds. There's a hearing of them. It just simply arises, just as everything does.
And that is the natural state. Yes. And that is the natural state. That's when we're born. That openness is there. And then we learn through the different developmental phases. We learn and we develop this sense of identity, the me notion. And we think that's real. It's a construction.
Doesn't seem any way to avoid that.
No, it's normal. It's normal. It's normal and totally appropriate. It's what happens. And it is absolutely valid. You know, you can't leave this room without a reference point because you're not going to be able to find the door. So reference points arise and subside, and they're not the problem at all. And I think it was Jean Klein who described the ego as a mode of functioning. So it doesn't exist as such, but it's a mode of functioning, just as running doesn't exist. You know, you can't have some running, here's some running here. It's an activity that's employed that arises. So there's nothing wrong with all of this stuff.
And then you realise, well, that the ego is being made up. And so you can still use that concept or something. Point or
it's a false problem. When in doubt, blame the ego. As a dear friend of ours wrote in a song once, the ego is not a dirty word. But you know, the habit from this early phase, the natural state, prior to this seeming construction that develops, is without making divisions. So it's a habit that we devise, that we learn, we absorb and we embellish. And if we do a really good job of it, we can really be quite negative about ourselves and sit in the whole negativity thing. Then a whole lot of compensatory things take place to kind of balance this out, whatever's done. But in seeing that this is a construction, that this me notion is a constellation of a whole lot of thoughts, in seeing that, then it doesn't have the sting. You can't take it for real. And it can simply function. The reference point arises because there needs to be a line drawn between here and the door in order to get out of the door. It's functioning, it's a mode of functioning. It's not a problem.
Advited facilitators say that kind of we're the screen on which it all happens. And I guess they're also saying we're also what's happening on the screen. The problem I have is that I get so overshadowed by the stuff, and I guess it's a universal problem, the stuff that's happening on the screen, that I really have no reality on the screen. It's like the action on the movie screen, which it must also be part of me. I mean, but I don't have a reality, a real permanent, lasting, 24/7 reality on being the screen, because I'm overshadowed by the action on the screen. So that's a major difficulty I have.
Yeah. Let's see. The hint here is just to relax about it. Because you can't work this out mentally.
No,
You know, and
I realise that.
yeah, and like all these metaphors, you know, the screen, the image, which is quite a common one, they all have their limitations. We tend to actually, there's a tendency to try to milk them too literally.
Yeah.
So just relax. There's no special way, there's no method to awaken. You know, it just falls on us.
Yes.
And so one hint is just to be with it. And so often expectations and anticipation and wanting things to be a certain way can simply just colour the whole thing. Like the desire for enlightenment, wanting this state, this story, this permanent bliss or whatever we've accumulated about it, that simply gets in the way because we're not present to what's arising now. This is it as it's appearing. It's just this. And whether we get it or not or understand it or not, it doesn't matter. So a hint is just, this is how enlightenment is appearing. This is how the wonder is arising here. How exquisite. I don't get it, that's okay. A thought arises, oh, it should be different, that's okay. And love the thought, the doubt, love the projection, love the thoughts, love the fears, just because they're all part of this. This is how it's arising.
Yes, although relatedly, even when I hit periods of thoughtlessness, which I do,
Yeah.
there's no juice there. It's kind of flat.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not a shift of anything really, just it's no thought.
Yeah.
So that's getting me.
I think also in the seeking business that we've all done, there's this notion of this end product. So it's a particular, we objectify it. So there's this thing that we want. It's an amazing product because you don't really know what it is, you don't know what it's going to look like or smell like or taste of or whatever. So it's this nebulous, amazing something that we are projecting in the future. And that becomes the problem. Because we're anticipating something, an object, objectifying it in our minds, and that creates and holds the whole duality of it. Because there's a me trying to attain this particular object. So you've got subject and you've got object. It's a bit like the carrot in front of the donkey, so chasing after this thing. So it's really interesting, just further to what Peter was saying, the great secret is there's nothing to attain. It's simply the thisness. Immediately, right now, this thisness. And when we speak about the thisness, quite often
you say isness.
Isness.
Yes, yes.
Thisness, isness, I don't know, whatever. The thisness, the isness, is simply what is immediate, what you are aware to, aware of, without splitting it into objects right now. So we have the habit of going up into the head, and we're all used to being so busy in the thinking that we're madly working out, oh, is my isness the same as his isness or her isness or whatever. It's that subtle habit that we develop. Simply, this is all there is, this isness. And in reducing or suspending or softening the attention that's going into that thinking stream, the narrative that kicks up and keeps the attention away from as such. See that. Just see the mechanics of that and the narrative that's going across. I'm not getting this, I'm getting this. What is it? What's it like? Have they got it? Has this person got it? Blah, blah, blah. Just, yeah, there it is. It's doing its thing. It's a bit like on the tally. It's an image I often use. You're watching a film. Fabulous film. Beautiful film. Engrossing. And down the bottom is the moving text. And it's, stock exchange, sports results, the weather temperatures, predictions for tomorrow. And it's along there. Sometimes I play with this. I try and do the two things at once. And it's not possible to do it. And what we do is we're so much in the habit of watching this moving text or the interpreting narrative that we do, that the attention is not on the isness, the moment, the thisness, which is all there is. And of course, that thinking, that text, that narrative is simply arising in that. And it's not the problem, it's the isness as well.
Yes. A difficulty that I think is screwing me up is that I've had situations where whoosh, Richard has disappeared, and the entirety of creation is within me, only that me is not Richard. But actually it's a softness in my heart towards Richard, but actually in the vastness of it all he is really irrelevant. So, and that's awfully powerful. I've had a couple of those, and it sort of does colour you as to accept this dimension of the thisness. Anyway.
And look, that's a common experience.
Yeah.
I mean, Belsika used to call them tastes. That tastes, tastes.
Free samples.
Free samples. Everyone has tastes of this.
They're pretty good.
Yeah, and and it can be the wonder of a moment of looking into a child's eyes, or just being still. It just falls on you.
It seems to happen really randomly.
Yeah, it seems to be random. And it's like, but see, the thing is, it's not like that happens. That's always here. It's just that for some reason or other, the story got out of the way, and we're appreciating what is. So I'm doing a flip here, a figure ground reversal. Because the way we tend to construct this, there's I, the seeker, Richard, whoever the person is, and then suddenly this wonder happens. And then how to get back there, how to recreate that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And see, so the suggestion is to flip it around the other way. The wonder, that extraordinary isness, that's always here. That's all there is. And the habit is to be caught up in the eye machinery.
Yes.
And every so often, for some reason or other, that falls away, and there's a glimpse, a taste of what's here. And it's a very common thing. And the hint is just let it go. Because the more you try to recreate the conditions which produced it, apparently, the further away you are from it. Because the story that you're caught up in is the very thing which is overlaying and getting in the way of appreciating this isness which is always here.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've done that, had those sort of flashes while listening to music,
Mm.
and try a few days later, I'll play the same music, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Never.
I mean, if you talk about the zone, any sports person, whether they're doing individual sports or team sports, knows something about the zone as a descriptor of some extraordinary, spontaneous state of being, of heightened awareness, of magic and wonder. Or musicians talk about being in the groove, where suddenly they're in a different place. Or as simple as just being in a really powerful conversation, where there's no you, no me, there's no self, no other, there's just the flow of this deep conversation which touches the heart. We all know that. And it's a present experience available to everyone. And rather than trying to get it, look at what's in the way of experiencing it. And what tends to be in the way is grasping, trying to hang on, or rejecting, pushing away. So, I spoke earlier about being kind, because you are the field. The field, whatever is appearing, is the self. So, being kind to the bits that we like, that's easy. But the unwanted parts, that's often where the gold is. Jung had this beautiful expression. Jung said, we clothe the world with our unknown face. So all these aspects of me, particularly the unknown bits, we just project them out onto the world.
Okay.
And then when we see them in other people, we react to them. Well, that's that bit of me I don't like. So the hint here is to be kind to the unlovable aspects of self, the ones we don't like. To tell a story, a number of years ago I was working with a very senior executive in Sweden, and he was a researcher, very bright, and he got to quite a position of authority. In fact, he was in charge of he was chairing a meeting of heads of business from all over Europe. And so I was mentoring him via Skype. Now, he was having trouble because he's a really good, open-hearted person, and he was having great difficulty getting this meeting together because all these people were coming from different countries and different companies with their agenda, wanting to manipulate the situation for their advantage. So I pointed out to him that he needed to learn to sell, to negotiate. Now, that was an unwanted aspect of his self, because he had a story about salespeople are bad. He had rejected that aspect of himself. So I was asking him to become what he didn't like. So first we had to actually see the beauty. It wasn't, the salesperson wasn't a negative manipulator. I wasn't asking him to become a criminal, but just to learn to be skillful, to be able to communicate the benefits of something, to deal with people's objections. So anyway, we worked through that, and he saw that it was his story that was getting in the way of his development. So taught him some basic skills, and he used his heart and took people up into a higher purpose, a sense of vision, and communicated it well. And that has set standards and protocols which is affecting industry across Europe for years.
Mm.
Now, the key here was what he was looking for was to be found in the last place he wanted to look. So in this field of awareness, those aspects of self that are unwanted, that are rejected, particularly if there's an emotional charge, that's delicious. Go there. Do the opposite of the ego tendencies. So, the hint here, be gentle, and the story comes up, it should be like this, or it's dry and empty, whatever it is. There you go. That's simply the mind machine running a commentary, having its expectations and its story. That's okay. That's okay. Let it fall away, because without attention it just falls away. And then this ordinary awareness is actually quite delicious. There's a scintillating zing to this ordinary life.
I'd certainly like some of that.
Well, it's here.
Yes.
It's never anywhere else. Yeah. And it's always available. It's unlimited.
Yes. I get the idea.
Yeah. But see, again, gentleness, being gentle with yourself, because I have a sense that you the rigour that you are gets in the way of working too hard here.
Okay.
It's like years ago, Kalyani and I were in a Buddhist monastery in southern Thailand, and this monk was giving this discourse. There's only about 3 or 4 Westerners there, And we were quite young then, in our 20s, and we're attempting to sit cross-legged in half lotus and listening to this discourse. This monk sat...
Full lotus.
This monk sat beautifully still. And then I noticed I was wriggling and moving and swapping from this one to this one. And then I noticed out of my peripheral vision all around me the other Westerners were all doing the same thing. Then the monk looked and laughed at us. He said, there are two types of people that come here. Those who can sit and those who can think. He said, we make those who can sit think, and those who can think sit. So, there are two types of people who come here. Those who are really rigorous and earnest, and we encourage them to soften and relax. And those who are loose as a goose, and we encourage them to actually put some rigour, put some focus. So my sense is just for you relaxing, just being easy with yourself.
Thank you. Yeah, that's helpful.
Yeah.
I'm observing. I'm still kind of caught in this loop of realizing that I'm really attached to the flowery language and the idea that God has this divine plan, and and I do actually believe that. But I'm actually also noticing the trap within that attachment to happiness. And I'm actually realizing that it's really keeping me in this story and addictive, behaviours and things. I guess I understand intellectually that it's the idea of the self and the narcissistic loop, but I'm still stuck in it. Somehow.
And yet,
just looking for
listening to, there's an extraordinary sharp intelligence there, discriminating intelligence, because you're speaking from that. It's not, I didn't hear anyone caught. You'll say this and this and that and then, yes, I noticed that this and that. That witnessing intelligence that you are is really clear.
But I feel that I'm caught in a narcissistic loop.
Yeah, but
at the same time, I can.
But see, just to be able to say that, you're not. The witness, the intelligence that you are, can see the story. Anyone who's caught in a narcissistic loop never says it.
Yes.
They never say it.
Yeah. It's also, I think, when we have these beliefs about ourselves, we're measuring something against something else. So we've got some kind of notion in mind, because to describe that we're being this or that, or more of this or more of that, or more narcissistic or whatever it might be, there's some kind of idealised mode of behaviour or way of being that we're measuring against. And if we let that measuring against thing go, how can we decide or measure what we are? It has to be in the context of some sort of idealised self or idealised behaviour. So in dropping that idealised notion of how we should be or how we could be, you're just left with what's arising. And if it's not being measured or labelled, how can you know what it is? It's just simply arising. It's label-less.
What could be simpler?
And you understand this already because you're speaking from such a point of clarity. So there's that innate understanding, that innate clarity that is there.
It was beautiful to hear. Your way of putting it.
Yeah, and I just feel this anxiety inside. I feel stuck.
But so look, if you want to play with that, use the stuckness as your fuel, as the window into this. So here's an example. When you feel this stuckness, then locate it. Where precisely is it? Now that's really interesting because there's an assumption that it's real. Okay, if it's real, where is it? Then you start to locate. And of course, people feel stuck in the heart or stuck in the gut or stuck in the head. It's often somewhere along the chakra system. Well, locate where it is and locate really precisely. And then just focus with great intensity that extraordinary intelligence, that lucid clarity that you are. Focus on this stuckness. And nothing stands up to investigation. Because if you focus with some rigour and keep focusing, a dissolution happens. It's not there. It's the stuckness. Honestly, it is this unfathomable emptiness. So all these notions, rather than feeding them and then looping with them, use them as a window into eternity. Feeling anxious, okay. Where is anxiety presently, right now? Where is it presently arising? And just zone in on it. Nothing stands up to this laser-like investigation. They're just like all the candidates, let them come up. Because see, again, this figure ground here, what we're suggesting is, start from you are already that. You are life itself. You are thatness. Start from that. Then anything that appears to disconfirm, that appears to be a story in the way, okay, where are you? Focus. And dissolve anything which disconfirms the glorious wonder that you are. You see how I'm flipping it?
Yeah, you flipped it, yeah.
Yeah, instead of being an I, trying to get to this, start as this. And then anything, any thought-up construction, because any thought is coming out of this wonder anyway, and that it seems to be an apparent veil or an obstacle, focus on it, and in the focusing, a dissolution happens. Then enjoy them. Yeah. Anxiety, a stuckness, a narcissistic fantasy, whatever it is, okay, where is it?
When you spoke about giving attention to that thing that causes the unpleasant feeling, it was answering the question already that I was wanting to ask, which is this clinging towards happiness. And actually always looking for that, and then when that unpleasant,
And
something comes up, it's like, ugh.
That's the me story.
Yeah, but so this is flipping it. It's just the happiness is there. It's a never-ending, unflowing, ever-flowing stream, and this thing is in the way. It needs to, that's the loop, isn't it? Avoiding
And see,
it,
but this ever-flowing stream is neither happy nor unhappy. It's neither this nor that. It simply is this unfathomable wonder, appearing as all sorts of things. And see, this push-pull, this wanting to hang on to what we like and wanting to reject what we don't like, that's the pulsation which creates and recreates the separation. That's the fuel for the I. Because the me story only lives by attention. Because the me is something, it's a thought which appears and disappears. It's not permanent. The me isn't permanent. It's just something that appears momentarily as a thought and disappears. Because when we're engrossed in a task, when we're in a great conversation, when we're enjoying something beautiful, where there's no me. And the me is a thought which appears momentarily. And if we give it attention, it has life. So rather than getting caught up in the story, just rest as the screen, as the witness, as the self. Because that's what you are. Yeah. Just start from that.
You helped me
Touch based on, things come, in a moment, say from the past, from the childhoods. We might recall some event of something in the school, when we had so it comes up in a moment, is it?
And it's fascinating that anything with emotional charge is to do with the past. It's so fascinating. So whenever there's a strong charge, something from the past is simply being activated and just been brought up, been triggered in some way. And then, there you go, that's okay. And just let it be, recognise it, that's okay, and it will fall away. Whereas if we buy into it, we strengthen it, recreate it. And because those things, we're all wounded. It's like that image of being sunburned, just a touch hurts. Everyone has different sensitivities. And that's just part of the story of being a human being. Yeah, and they arise up. There's no point trying to suppress them or deny them or reject them or try to work them out. Just simply see them for what they are. Just old, multi-sensory packets of now with charge just arising. There you go. That's okay. And often there's something really beautiful in there. In fact, the gold is often discovered in those unexpected places. And the key is to simply just be with it. Because it's your field of awareness, and this is what's arising for some unknowable reason. Something has triggered this spontaneously. There you go. That's okay. It's not separate from, or a problem, or an obstacle, or something getting in the way. It's just this arising as this particular constellation. And the totality is always the totality. And nothing is ever gained or lost. Every atom, every molecule is still here. It changes forms, that's all. And just, there you go. And what could be wrong? And if you think there's something wrong in your action, that's okay too. Because there's a present reaction to a past reaction. That's okay.
The other thing too that the focus today has been on the heart is these two beautiful components. One is forgiveness and one is gratitude. And for any hurts that are not resolved, that are being held, resentment towards the mother, the father, it's like there's an endless variation on a theme that can be held. There's like a profound forgiveness. Profound forgiveness. Whatever that hurt may have been, or that injustice, or that wrong action on the part of another person, a forgiveness. It's not saying everything is okay and that is how it should have been. It wasn't how it perhaps should have been, otherwise it mightn't have been held. But simply to forgive, to allow that forgiveness, because when we forgive others, guess what? We forgive ourselves. To forgive, to profoundly forgive, is to let go, is to be free of that fixation, that bind that there is with the past and that past action. And gratitude. And this is one that is really overlooked. Gratitude. It's like a gratefulness. Gratefulness. That's an interesting word. Gratefulness. Because that's what is. The capacity of the breathing, the aliveness, the livingness, the consciousness. a gratitude. Aliveness. Breath. The air is clean. And you can start the day and you can go and you can drink the water out of the tap. You can eat food, you can get poisoned. There's no helicopter gunships going over. I mean, you know, you can walk out the front of the house here and probably not many, you know, submachine guns going to go off. I mean, you know, it's pretty, there's so much. The colour, the hearing, the seeing, the tasting, the joyfulness that arises, the sorrow that arises. There can be a gratitude for that. Gratitude for tasting the whole spectrum of extraordinary experiences. And so, forgiveness and gratitude, it cleans the slate. You know, we clean our houses and we clean our, you know, our bodies and wash our hair and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, clean the stuff, the other stuff. Otherwise it's like this great, huge, heavy weight that gets played out day after day after day. Oh, I can't do that because my mother or my father or my uncle or auntie said I was never good. No. It's like, oh, for heaven's sakes, they're all dead anyway, you know. What's the... Carrying that around is there's some kind of ongoing investment in that. And we often carry stuff because then we don't have to act or do. We've got excuses. I could do this, except I'm just a... da-da-da-da-da. Forgiveness. Gratitude.
In this field of awareness, you don't have to do anything to find it. Because it's just this, whatever's appearing. And if you're walking around, look without labeling. Just notice whatever's appearing as it is. See as a field. See as totality. And if the thoughts start coming up or it comes back into the me thought, then just see that as aspects of totality. Just relocate as the field. And everything's always self-organising. Everything's emergence. It's always new. And just whenever it comes to mind, just it doesn't matter if the eyes are open or eyes shut. Just notice the self-organising field. Notice the emergence, the wonder that's just appearing. Always presently arising. Always new. This Paracelsus, 2,500 years ago. No one can enter the same river twice. You step into the river, you step out. You step into the river, new river. Everything is changing. Everything is new. And just open up to that gratitude, the joy, the wonder of what's here. It's just this.
It's actually hard to step into the same river once.
Absolutely.
There's a lovely piece that I put up here, and I'll read it out. It's initial essence of it's from the I Ching, and the answer can never be found while there's defensiveness. The mind has only critical judgments and self-justifying stories. Instead, look into heart and follow the impulse of forgiveness and gratitude. Then he goes on to say, if you have judged, forgive. If you have grasped, let go. If you've rejected, accept. If you have torn down, repair. And if you have hurt, heal. So simple.
got goosebumps running right through my body.
And what was that?
That's from the I Ching.
It's one of the hexagrams of the I Ching. But tell about when you went to the granddaughter's kindergarten.
Ah, yes, that's a beautiful one.
Yeah.
Now this was in a school, primary school. I went to collect my granddaughter from school one time, and I was a bit early. So I walked into the waiting area. Had a big notice board, all sorts of things about the school fate, about the working bee coming up, various other bits and pieces. And in the middle was a poster, just sitting there. The notice board with all the busy stuff of life on it. And it says, "Be kinder than necessary." Wow. This is in the school. The children could see to be kinder than necessary. What more do you need?
So good.